Welcome to Wizard Team, a Black magical podcast for Black magical stories.
Hi everyone, it's Bayana, Robyn, and Porshèa embarking on a journey through the many fantasy stories written by and about Black people. Currently, we're reading Legendborn by Tracy Deonn, and today we're discussing chapters 42 through 44.
Okay. Previously on Wizard Team. So Cell is reeling from the discovery that his mother allegedly was behind the 1995 demon attack on UNC Chapel Hill. Bree tries to comfort him. There's like a little, tense moment. But then they learned that Bree's mom was one of the witnesses to the attack. And then because of that, she was mesmered and then was being watched by the Order for the rest of her life. Cell likens it to witness protection, but honestly, like it's more like protection of the Order. At the point that her mom would have like hinted at knowing anything, she probably would have been anyway.
Disappeared.
But, yeah, but it does also confirm that her death really was like a hit and run and not connected to the Order. Bree is understandably very upset about it. Feels really guilty that she kind of went through this whole process, put all these people in danger, kind of put herself in danger, and knowing that her mom was trying to hide from the Order that whole time. So then she quits the Order, but not without an angsty confrontation with Nick before she leaves. Nick is beside himself. He's very confused about what happened between Bree and Cell, and then also is really upset when Bree's like, sorry, I gotta go. You don't actually want me as your squire. She then basically isolates herself, basically just going to classes, studying, tries to forget about the Order. Alice is like, this ain't it. You're just walking around like a zombie. And then she calls Mr. Matthews for reinforcement, who shows up and is a father. Takes Bree to the Waffle House, talks to her about her mom's hopes and dreams, or for Bree, and then also, needing therapy, and then gives Bree her mom's bracelet. And then he tells her to make it about the love, which is a great quote. I think that's it.
That is it. That was a great recap, by the way. And also, I just want to say that like that chunk of chapters and then this chunk of chapters, like I know that I said when I was first reading it, I was like, okay, this is, everyone likes it, whatever. I'm not an Arthur girly, but like we out here. And then when the memory walk happened, I was like, oh, I'm in it. This chunk of chapters here is when I was like, oh, this is like a phase. Like just put it on the, like this is not just like, oh, I'm in it, but like I'm in it and I will be coming back to this. Yes. So I say all that to say, let's get in to chapter 42 because love this. Very traumatic, not traumatic. What's the right word? There's a lot of feels. There's a lot of feels in this chapter. But also Tracy be writing. She be writing. So after she gets back from the Waffle House, she goes to her classes and gets back to her room. She opens her mom's velvet box, which has like the bracelet in it. Her dad told her not to open it at Waffle House. As soon as she opens,
could you imagine? Sorry,
I know, right?
But also, how did he know? How did he know?
I feel like he didn't. I feel like he was like, this is a moment I want you to have by yourself.
Like an emotional, like I'm not trying to have you crying in the Waffle House type of thing.
Yeah.
I feel like maybe it was that, or maybe she did give him like instructions that she needs to like open it alone.
Open it right alone. That's
true. I would hope so.
So maybe he thinks that there's like a note in there or something, but like I'm sure he looked at it. I don't know.
Yeah.
But I don't think he knew.
That would be hilarious. Especially if like no one else could see it.
Yeah, she was.
It's not like regular, like once, like her dad wouldn't be able to see the mage flame.
The boxes burst into flame.
Yeah.
So she sees like smoke filling the room, and as she holds the box, she's pushed into a memory walk. Like, that to me is so bomb. Like, in the last memory walks and stuff, you know, she's with Patricia and Mariah, and they are very intentional about what they're about to do. And in this one, it's like, as she dropped the bracelet and it kind of whatever, and then she picked it up again and like, boom.
But it's also like, it's her memory. So it's like,
yeah,
that it's slightly different in the sense of like, she's not necessarily being guided. It's like the bracelet is like a key to unlocking this memory she's had her whole life.
So it's like breaking a mesmer.
And it's also interesting because it happened when she was so little, right? Like, she has this ability to break mesmer or whatever, but it's potentially she didn't have that ability until after her mom died. And so like, and she was so little, like she wouldn't know to try to break something.
And we're also
like
gonna
that.
like see in this this conversation that she had with her mother. I don't even think it's a conversation. This like speech that her mom's giving her, basically, that at that point she hadn't shown any affinity for craft. So, which is like answered one of my questions from last week, but I still have other questions. Anyway, so they are, she's in this walk. She's 7 years old, and her mother has taken her to like the county fair, but wants to speak to her before they go in. And tell 7-year-old Bree, I'm going to talk to you, but I'm just practicing this like conversation that I need to have with someone else. Can you like stand in while I have this conversation? And so 7-year-old Bree is like, okay. And then her mom is like, oh wait, you're 7. Can we play the silent game? Can you just be quiet and not interact while I get this out?
Which I guess is like the right age. She doesn't quite like do it, but she does well enough where it's like, if she is maybe even a year younger, she would have a lot of questions.
She tries.
Yeah.
She tries her best, but like also, it's so funny because like, immediately she's like, I'm gonna practice this thing, and then 7-year-old Bree is like, wait, what's going on? And she's like, no, okay, I'm gonna talk. You just don't sit. So she is talking to 7-year-old Bree, but actually talking to like future Bree, and tells her that she knows that if she's holding this bracelet again and is seeing this, then that her mother is gone. And so she talks about her mom, and tells her about the fact that she comes from a family of root crafters, but that normally children will show signs of like accidental crafting by age 6. And then she didn't see any of that in Bree. And so she took her to Miss Hazel, whose craft, like she can read basically auras, and not really see the future, but I felt like it would like kind of get like a read on someone's abilities. Like she would be able to like tell you what kind of crafter this person is.
I feel like Patricia mentioned, I don't know if it's the same person, but Patricia definitely mentioned someone else that they went to school with, which is how she found out that Bree's mom was a crafter. It's because somebody else on campus like saw her aura and was like, oh yeah, she does, she's one of us too. But I don't know if it's the same person or if it's like different people with similar abilities.
Yeah. So then she says that Miss Hazel didn't see any craft in Bree, and so she hopes that, she calls it their like bad luck is over, their run of bad luck. I thought this was really interesting because I'm like, one, who is Miss Hazel? Did she not see it in Bree because was she lying? Like, what was I just need more information about this. But also like, I'm wondering too, like, did Bree have the ability to like kind of wall herself off as a 7-year-old, like as protection, without knowing that's what she was doing? She's a little bit more, she's definitely more like aware of before Bree, after Bree, and like what she was doing to like protect herself. But I'm wondering if like something else happened and like young Bree was just like, oop, nope, I don't like that.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, I think Patricia has a theory for it, which we'll get to in the next chapter.
Yeah.
Which isn't necessarily like definitely what happened, but it's like a
but it also kind of
maybe.
explains that like question that I had last episode where it was like, why did her mom not tell her anything? And it's because she kind of was like hoping that this means that they're like she says, their run of bad luck is gone, and she's breaking kind of the bad luck. But as a failsafe, she's still going to leave her or have this conversation or leave her with this memory. Bree's mom believes that there's a subtle, like the thing that makes their root crafting different is that there is a.
I was gonna say before we move past the Bree's powers not showing themselves, I was thinking, like, my theory was that perhaps the Order was involved, and we're gonna get there about like who's helping her right now in this moment.
Mm-hmm.
But because she showed her powers on campus, I was wondering if Bree's mom's clear connection that she has with this person, if that person might have masked Bree's powers to help her out for the Order to not catch them without her knowing. Like if like that was a protective measure she did without telling Bree's mom.
That is a good theory. So Bree's mom talks about these subtle, persistent abilities that are from bloodcraft. And so she's being very like, she finally does say the words like bloodcraft, but she's like, our family, before she gets there, she's like, our family participates in like this, how does she say it? A gift that only we know about because other rootcraft users wouldn't like what we have. There's something even, so she says like there's something even more special inside of us that we keep secret just in our family, and that's the bloodcraft, which like current Bree, not current, present day Bree, like understands right away. And she says that like if you're hearing this second time, then you already know what I'm talking about. The subtle, persistent abilities, like the one you just used with my bracelet, enhanced sight that lets you see things that other people can't, a heightened sense of smell, touch, hearing, even taste when it comes to the root in our world. Certain enchantments that work on other people won't work very well on you, if at all. And so she calls these passive abilities that allow the family to detect an encounter with root. And then she says, or magic or ether or whatever another practitioner may call it, which is also like a very, thing. And so she's explaining this as like a part of like the bloodcraft. But I was also thinking like these are actually like, these come from like the Arthur lineage. And I don't think that Bree's mom even really knows, because she says like, it's more of like a fight or flight kind of gift that they have. And she says the power can only live in one daughter at a time. And I'm still like, but can't you still have other children? Like, even if Bree is the only, like the firstborn daughter or whatever, and like the only one that has ability to have root or craft, which I honestly don't know if that's true, but maybe, but you could still have other kids. Like, why are you leaving them alone?
But I don't know that I don't know if it's
it doesn't say
made clear whether they can or not.
Yeah.
It definitely is, but it might, if it is made clear, it's probably during the like final memory walk.
Yeah,
it might be addressed then. I can't completely remember.
I don't know if that it's by choice.
Yeah, I don't think it's by choice.
I can't believe that it's.
The thing is I do believe that can work because of the sense of like this magic, for one, it shows up differently for them than it does for like the other scions and stuff, because the nature of that magic and their like deal that was made or whatever is a lot different. Which also, actually, no, we're actually missing a piece now that I just remembered. So there's the like, you know, her baby is, I think it was Vera. She her baby was the scion of Arthur, but she made a deal with someone else. The
Yeah.
I don't think he's
During
called
the-
the Demon King, but the Demon King.
Yeah.
To like to keep them protected. So actually, this is like they have like 3 different strands of magic working together, which is, I was just thinking like as you were reading, I was just like, Bree got too much going on. But so it's not just the fact that like, oh, she's the scion of Arthur. It's also like they have this other magic that's bound to them in a different way. That I think is what makes it so that they can't do more. It can't exist in more than one. Like they can only just go
daughter,
one, I guess. Yeah. But again, I don't think
that's what I was talking about like earlier when I was saying they have 2 bloodcraft spells tied to them. Which the one was like, you know, Arthur, and that Merlin, well, I forget what they call it, that spell. That's tied to all of the scions, and then this protection spell that Vera makes with the Demon King. And so, but there's like because it's 1-to-1, and because like they pass it on to their daughter, and then the payment is that it can only live in one daughter at a time. And Bree's mom says, maybe it's because all of that power burns us out. I don't know, but none of us get very long with our mothers. And from what we've seen, like, Bree is 16 when her mom passes away. Bree's mom was like 18. That is not a long time with your mom at all. That's way too young to lose your mom. But I am 4 years younger than my brother. Like, there's a big gap between Bayana and Ami, but there's a smaller gap between her older. Like, you can have, like, there is room for her to have another.
There's
sibling.
room, but I don't know that there's ability. There's a difference between, like, oh, she could have, but she can't. Like, I think literally the magic does not let them do that.
Because the way that it's laid out, and this is why it's like it's still kind of an unknown. It's the way that it's laid out in this explanation is that the powers can only live in one daughter at a time. So the power gets passed on. And so maybe that also, like, when that power like kind of burns them out or whatever, and that's when their kind of abatement starts. Their form of abatement, maybe that also takes away their fertility. We don't know though.
I could see that as like, okay, you got one.
I could see that being
your clock, you know, your days are numbered type situation.
I'm also like, y'all, we got modern medicine, and I don't.
But I'm like, I don't know if modern medicine works for this.
As a younger sibling, I'm just like, I couldn't hold. I don't know. Just like I don't want to hold all this by myself. Like, the only childness of it is like just heartbreaking to me. And I'll get I mean, not that I'll get over it, but like I will move past it because we have to. We only have so much time in this episode. But like reading it, I was just like, I understand that she has to like shoulder this burden, but she doesn't have like a confidant. And I wish that like her dad could be that, or, you know, I just you know, Alice gets to be that after a minute, like in Bloodmarked and stuff a bit, but like, I just feel like it would have been much easier for her growing up.
Yeah, but also that's part of it. Like, it's definitely a curse. Like, it's like, you know,
it's a
stuff
curse,
that people, and, you know, people make, I think part of it is too, is like people make deals or make bargains in the time and don't really foresee like what that's gonna, like what those consequences are gonna be in the future, and not necessarily for you. You might not have to like reap those consequences. It may be somebody way further along, and so, you know. So then so she is explaining how this can only live in one daughter at a time, and that
it's how she knows that if Bree is experiencing this memory again, it's because she now has these abilities. And so the like, you know, their run of bad luck, I'm using quotes in a podcast, but what she calls bad luck, their curse basically still lives on, right? And so she says, I know you're thinking it, but it's not your fault. It's not your fault I left you, just like it wasn't my fault that my mother left me. I know you have those feelings now, but don't let them sour inside you. Let the pain be a part of you, but know that it's not all you are. That's what I'm trying to do. And so that, like, to me gives us, like, her kind of side to, like, what Bree's father was explaining in that previous chapter about, like, her kind of fighting against that anxiety and how, like, she was always worried if Bree was prepared, if she was ready, how hard she was on Bree. And I think it's because of that, like, pain. And even though she's kind of, you know, trying to fight against it, she's not healed by any means. And she, like, is recognizing this, like, coping or the way that she's kind of internalized that, like, loss of her mother. And she knows a lot more than Bree did, right? So there's also that, which is like, ugh. But she is trying to work on it. She's trying to not be so consumed by that guilt or that feeling of like, it's my fault. Which obviously it's not, because she didn't make this bargain.
Right. Like
she didn't.
She had nothing to do with it.
It is now generations later, right? So,
yeah. And she also, at least Bree, had no clue about it until now. Like, at least her mom knew about it.
So this is where we get to, like, our conversations about Bree's mom, Mrs. Matthews, last episode. That she says the one thing that, as she's, like, talking about it as fight or flight, she says the fighting part will only happen when you really need it to, when you're angry or upset enough and you can't escape. And so then she goes into the 1995 attack and she says, it happened to me one time and one time only. I saw something at school that I couldn't ignore. Innocent people getting hurt. I made a choice to fight and it was worth it. I'd do it again if I had to. But a consequence of that choice is that I've had to hide myself since then from people who don't understand who we are or what we can do. And that's why, if there's any chance you don't have these abilities, I'm going to do all I can to hide this from you. Because if you don't know any of it, then maybe they won't find you. And I'm like, that is total anxiety thinking.
Yeah.
It is not logical at all.
Yeah.
And it is, like, so insane. Me as a person who deals with, like, extreme anxiety and panic and, yeah. And it's been going to therapy for, time to, like, unpack that and unravel it. It's so interesting to hear this, like, articulated in this way, because I can kind of put myself in that scenario and be like, yeah, checks out. But, like, hearing it, I'm like,
I think hearing it and also seeing the, like, repercussion of it before you get that as the, like, explanation, it's kind of like, well, that didn't work.
Exactly. Like, and so, like, the reason why I'm like, it's anxiety thinking and it's based on anxiety, it's like, it's because you're making a plan on something that you hope will happen. Like, she even says, if there's any chance that you don't have these abilities, I'm going to hide them from you. Maybe you won't be drawn to that school the way I was, but that's also why I'm telling you now, in a way that means you'll only hear it if and when you absolutely need to understand who we are. It's like, no,
it's
you have no control. It's too late. It's too late.
There's a couple different things about this that can, like, I thought process wise, like, when I do understand that, like, a thing about being anxious and, like, being anxiety driven is that, like, when you love others, you're also hoping that they would never feel, like, as badly as you do, and, like, as, like, so you would, like, if you can help them to avoid having the same anxieties you do, you try to, like, take it on because you're already there. So you're like, I'm already here, I'll just take that on. You don't have to worry about it. Like, don't even think about it. And I think to her, that's what the school is for her. But I'm like, there's no way she's not going to think about the school if you don't prep. There's nothing to indicate to her that she shouldn't do it.
Nothing stopping
there's nothing. No,
following that path.
And I also think, like, I feel like
besides
the way that
hope,
she kind of says that,
yeah.
though, also the way she says, like, I was drawn to the school, I was hoping you wouldn't be drawn to the school. It's like, clearly there's some magic at work that makes y'all want to come here. Like, your round table is here, so like, you know, she could have messed around and gone wherever the Western chapter was. Like, maybe not, if she didn't go to Chapel Hill, she could have gone somewhere else. So, like, and still been in the
I think there's definitely magic that would have, like, she would have ended up at a chapter school for sure. The thing about, like, the anxiety and, like, the, like, acting off of your hope, though, is that she then goes on and says, like, when does she she said something about her dad where she's like,
something about him, like, holding on to the thing or whatever.
Holding on, yeah. Oh, here. So I told your dad that I wanted it to be yours one day. I hope he gave it to you right away, but knowing him, it might take a while. So it's like,
if you already
you know these things, and you're just like, everything for this to work out, it has to work out exactly
best case scenario. You're hoping for the best case scenario,
like, your fail safe, and a fail safe is literally for the worst case scenario. Only works in the best case of the worst case scenario. It's like, and at that point, like, what are we doing, right? Whereas, also, I would, and it's one thing to do this when she's 7. And so she's gotten to the point where it's like, I think she says around like 5 or 6, there'll be some accidental crafting, and this hasn't happened yet. And so she's hoping, like, Bree has broken this curse, right? And that makes total sense. But I feel like by the time she's 13, 14, even if you haven't seen any accidental crafting, you know who Bree is. And, like, we had talked about very early in this book, it's like Bree gives you, like, mystery reader, Harriet the Spy type of stuff. Like, you are a scientist, which means that you go after these unknown questions, and you don't think that your daughter wouldn't, Yeah. And then it's like, so the hope that, like, if you don't know your abilities, they won't find you. The they being the order.
I think it's funny, but it's if you think about it too. This is best case scenario. The order did find Bree, because the order finding Bree is what set Bree off towards the order. Because if she had not remembered her her memory trying to be erased in the cop, she might not have, like, did too much in regards of, like, figuring out, like, that Cell was able to do the same thing, and then putting it all together and being like, oh, I gotta go find out if this is related to my mom. Like, she might have, like, wandered more into the Rootcraft thing. She might have, like, gotten more involved with that. She might not have gotten involved with the order. Like, it just how things work. And then maybe she would have had the Rootcrafters explain what she saw in the forest. You know what I mean? Like, she might, like, the mystery for her is this memory wiping thing connected to what happened to my mother?
Yeah. But the other part about it is that she wants Bree.
But that was the best case scenario for her, is that Bree never interacts with anyone that sets her off on this journey to, like, ask questions.
Yeah. But it's like, if all I can do is hide this from you, because if you don't know any of it, then maybe they won't find you. But if you want her to hide, she has to know what she's hiding from.
Yep. And, like, who
is the only reason why you were able to hide from the order is because you knew
your mama told you.
Not only that, but she was in that, like, gate opening thing in 95, and so she had a sense of who to hide from. But
she didn't go to that school without knowing her mama prepared her.
Exactly. But also, it's like, and she also knows, because we're gonna see, like, so she finishes up this whole thing, and then she says, when the time comes, if it comes, don't be scared, fight, follow your heart, and move forward. And then she looks up at someone over 7-year-old Bree's shoulder and says, and she won't remember any of this until after, and the woman's voice says no. And then 7-year-old Bree tries to turn, but her mom stops her so she doesn't see who's there. She says, Bree, look at me, baby. Just look at me. I love you. And that's where the memory ends. But it's like, you wouldn't even know to trust this woman, this Merlin, who I'm saying is Sel's mama.
It is.
It is. Did we?
It
is that confirmed? I can never remember what's confirmed and what's
it is.
Theoretical.
I think it's confirmed.
I'm pretty sure we're gonna get to the end of this book.
I feel like confirmed in this book.
I thought it was confirmed in this book.
Okay.
I think by the end of this book, I think it's.
I feel like it has to have been because we are all like, yeah, that's Sel's mama.
Yeah.
This is the problem with like reading it, like close.
It's reading it.
I'm like.
It's that, and also we read so many
I'm like,
things.
Y'all would know better than me.
I've read it twice, but it's been, the problem is also like we all read so much, so like I read it, I got it, but now I'm on to something completely different. So my brain is not like, it's retaining information, but it's not.
Yeah,
it's not. Sure,
I know the big plot points, but I'm like, and also I know that like I'm like mostly sure that it's confirmed that it's Sel's mom, but I have no idea where or when it was confirmed.
Yeah, same. That's what it is.
So then I'm like,
remember
and,
when it was confirmed, or like,
I'm pretty sure it's this book because I don't think I went into Bloodmark confused about like.
Okay.
No, I'm pretty sure it's this book, but I also don't remember the context in which it was revealed. I guess is more where I'm at.
I know we leave this book with Sel's not still believing that his mom is the one who like not that not only because of the reveal, but because of like something that happens.
Okay.
I also want to point out.
You know what it is. I think that Daddy Davis villain explained something. It's a villain explain.
Okay. Yeah, so I don't think it's just the reveal though. I think something else happens too.
Probably it has to be something like in tandem. I will say though, I wanted to I was going back while you were like reading the last part about Sel's mom, right? Like if this is her, which we're pretty sure it's her. This is after, because Bree was 7.
Mm-hmm.
So this is after she was locked up the second time.
Yeah.
So Sel is older than Bree.
Yeah.
So Sel is 9 at this point that this memory is happening.
And in this
he was given to the Davises at 8. So she's supposed to be
she's supposed to have been she's supposed to have been locked up or dead in his eyes from
not her aconning
5 or something like
locked up, they won't let me out.
There's also, and this is a theory, this is not confirmed as far as I remember, but I've only read Bloodmarked once, that like the like main Merlin Erebus or whatever and her were like in cahoots. I think I mentioned some people think that he's Sel's daddy, but again, that's a full theory.
I still gotta find that on
Tumblr about it. It's on Tumblr.
Can you send me some stuff? Because I keep forgetting. You say it. And I'm like,
I have to find it again because I might have liked it on our Tumblr. Some of the Bloodmark stuff I haven't like shared out yet because we're not there yet. But that's definitely something I've seen. So it's possible, like, you know, they all think she's locked up, but she's been, you know, doing her own thing.
I want to learn more about the prison because to me, I think by the time I read Legendborn, I hadn't read Poppy Wars yet, but haven't read Poppy Wars since. The way that they have their magic people locked up in Poppy Wars is kind of sounding like how they explain how they lock up Merlins, like how like hard it's impossible to escape, like it's specifically made for Merlins to not being able to go through. And I really think that like so I'm not spoiling anything for if you've not read Poppy Wars. Basically what they do is they lock them up in a mountain and like there's no way, like it's impenetrable, like you cannot, like you basically like any abilities that you have are pointless because you'll end up burying yourself under rock if you try to escape. And I'm like, that's the only conceivable way I can think of for like them to keep Merlins down is like how could like that's just how my brain works. So I'm wondering what that looks like and how if she was able to like mimic or something herself to get out, or if it's like an open secret that she's not actually there. That's just the working story that she's
right.
There,
or if it's like just another cover up.
Yeah. Like I
Yeah.
wonder. I really just I don't know how Tracy works. Like I don't know what her next steps are. Like, you know, what's coming in upcoming books. But I really just want like a.
I feel like her mom is, or not her mom, Sel's mom is going to be explained because
I need a POV. I don't even want it. I want like a POV of both of the moms. Like I just want like, or like throw like a flash into like them in '95, and then again whenever
maybe
like,
something like what she did for Nick and Sel.
Yeah.
That would be interesting.
Or like,
I also need you to know
like
that there's
like
another impenetrable magical prison in a story called A Court of Thorns and Roses, and it works kind of similar way. So
I mean, that author.
I'm just saying.
Can
I know.
Her own prison if she would like. So
I know.
Not
it's so disappointing. Her and Fourth Wing Homegirl. Just like
not gonna happen. I was like, I'm so glad I was not enticed by them at all.
I've
already heard crap about the Court of Thorns and Roses one before, actually.
I hadn't. But I don't be paying attention to them people. Just give me the bat boys, you know?
We may have discussed this maybe when we were just talking about Amari and like the way that white people like to just try on oppression and like, oh, but what if it happened to me? Like that's what a lot of like alien invasion stories are about, are just like, but what if we were the ones who were oppressed, like knowing that like more times than not historically y'all were the ones who did it, and even now it's happening and y'all don't actually care, you just like it for the fantasy of it. That's your escapism, is imagining if you were the victims.
It's also imagining that the oppressed class would do the exact same oppressing that you did, when in reality,
if you were to get, if you were to acknowledge the wrong that's actually being wronged, then you would have to acknowledge that you also were like, it's on you to be rebelled against at some point, because you also get something out of the oppression that is going on. So at some point that would have to rebound against you, and you don't want to face that. But I also think you can tell what rebellion means to white people based on who they paint as rebels or punks or whatever, because like, how is a rebel to you someone who just like molders in a corner and talks about their feelings every once in a while? Like, how is that a rebel? You know what I mean? Like, y'all, I think a lot of the Star Wars fans who are, I don't think y'all have watched it yet, but Andor does a really great job of showing what an actual, like, what it means to be in rebellion, what the stakes are, how much of your own skin you got to put in the game to try to like actually, and it may pay off and it may not, how risky that is. And for people who are like, oh, I don't like that Star Wars got political, that's because you were okay with your idea of a rebel being freaking Han Solo, who's just like a smuggler and is there for like the smirks and the fun. Your idea of a rebellion is like an actual rebellion.
He was an accidental,
right? He wasn't even trying to be there.
He wasn't trying to be there.
And that's your idea of a rebel, and you love it. It's camp. It's so cute and quirky. But when you see Andor and there's an actual rebellion and all the stakes and people are Skinner in it, that's too political. What is this? This isn't the Star Wars I know. So now I really know how you feel about rebellion. Y'all talk about resistance over here, how the resistance is in freaking Star Wars, but you don't actually want to see a resistance and what goes into making a resistance.
No,
even in the fictional world.
We gotta pull it back because we could be here.
Sorry, that is a soapbox.
we could be here all day. We could do this all day.
We could do this all day. But I did want to. So sorry. I wanted to like focus in on this last point about Sel's mom. The reason why I brought up that part. This is going to be a monster to cut together into some sort of whatever. But is she had to know who to hide from, but she also had to kind of know who to trust or who was kind of, you know what I mean? So you have to have some level of awareness. To go kind of, to dip our toe back into the whole white people and oppression thing. It goes back into the like idea of like oppressed people, Black people, minorities, knowing white culture inside and out because it is a safety thing. That's the only way to stay safe. Right? Like, kind of reminds me of the whole like Jamie Foxx anti-Semitism thing where we were like, sorry, we stumbled upon an anti-Semitism. We know the white supremacy dog whistles. Like, we got them because those come after us too. Right? And then certain Jewish people, knowing the white supremacy dog whistles that affect them, but then like not knowing the, you know what I mean, like how it affects the other minority groups, because you're not hyper vigilant of us. We don't have power to oppress you. You're hyper vigilant of the oppressor. And so just in that vein of like anxiety and wishing and hoping for the best case scenario of the worst case scenario, it's like when Bree was like 13 or 14, she's still not showing signs of like accidental crafting or anything like that, but you are also kind of seeing her questioning and wanting to learn. She's very smart, right? She like is devouring knowledge. It feels like a point when you would say, if she accidentally stumbled upon these things, they might find her, but she doesn't know who they are.
Right.
And she won't know.
Which is basically what she did. She saw that hellhound and said, "Oh, that's my ticket. I'm out." Which is like, if she knew, she would have been like, "All right."
Exactly. And that's exactly what happened.
As soon as she found out who Nick was, she would have been the one at the dean's office like, "I need a different
my mama told me." Yep. Well, I mean, she wouldn't even been like, as soon as she was at that quarry and saw Phil and felt that little tingle, she would have been like, you know what, Alice, you were correct. Let us head back. We gotta go.
But also, she probably would have been like, I need to get out of here because there is someone on premises who could sense my magic.
Right.
Nope.
If she would have known, she wouldn't have gone there in the first place.
Which is why, the thing is I have a lot of sympathy for Bree's mom and like what she had to deal with and what she went through. You know what I mean? Like, she's definitely in a terrifying situation, and so she did what she did. It wasn't logical. It was based in fear, and like, I get that. And she could have set Bree up a lot better.
Yeah.
And this is another point too, that their line being a line of one or two or whatever, basically on Sith lore kind of crap almost.
They don't have like to like bounce ideas off. No one knows.
They don't have. She don't have her mama to be like,
girl.
Like, I would love for this to be a Halloween Town kind of thing where the daughter goes up with the grandma, and the grandma's like, "No, I got you. I'll teach you." And then the mama's like, "No, you can't." And then like, so at least she would have had a chance. At least she would have had someone. You know, like she would have had someone.
Well, she needed Bree's mom needed an Alice to be like, "This ain't it. This ain't it."
And I wish Sel's mom could have been that for her, because that would have been a fun dynamic to hear about. But
all right.
So anyway, so she comes back from the memory on her knees, and she makes a decision. She's like, okay, so I need to like move forward, basically. She like understands what her mom was trying to do. She really heard her mom talking about, it's not your fault, don't live in the fear. And then, you know, her mom says, when the time comes, if it comes, don't be scared, fight, take risk, follow your heart, and move forward. And I think that is like where Bree comes out of that memory. That's what she's holding on to. She's like, I know now what I need to do. And that's where we end chapter 42.
And I like that, like, you know, as far as character development goes, like, it's great. And I also like how this chapter and the one before, like the last one ends with like a sentiment from her dad, and then this one ends with like something from her mom. And so it's those two things together that kind of pull her not out of her grief, but like kind of give her a new perspective and how to channel that and how to like, again, move forward and do whatever it is that she feels is right, as opposed to being like so bogged down by like her anger and her sadness and all of that.
And also talking to her dad, and helps us and it helps her to realize that a lot of the choices her mom made were out of anxiety, were out of this like crippling fear. It wasn't like her mom, she thought that Bree was incapable, because that was Bree was coming out of, was feeling like her mom thought she was incompetent, or what, that was why she's pushing, you know, like it was like a fear. That was what it was making Bree upset to an extent too. And so it helps that she was able to have that conversation with her father, and he was so candid with her about where her mom's emotions and what drove her, because I think it really does help. It's not closure per se, because grief is going to be ongoing, but it is like an acceptance of what the next, like moving on to the next step,
and not letting it like completely drown her or, you know, keep her from
overwhelm her.
doing anything else. Wizard Team is back for a new season, and with that comes a few changes. The one we're most excited about, other than reading Legendborn by Tracy Deonn, is that the Patreon chat is back. Support our work by becoming a B&C baddie at any tier, and you'll be able to watch us record live weekly, have your thoughts included on the podcast, and interact with other baddies. Go to patreon.com/blacknerdscreate to join. Okay, chapter 43. So Bree goes to meet Patricia and Mariah in the cemetery, because she wants to try and connect with her ancestors again. She wants to figure out what's going on, like how we got here, especially after like hearing what she heard from her mom. She's like, okay, I'm not going to get where I got the information that my mom knows. Like her mom says in the thing that like her, I guess kind of the knowledge stops with with Bree's grandma, which also begs the question of like what Bree's grandmother's relationship was with her mom.
I want to know everybody's powers, because I'm like, where did it
I want to know
stop?
everybody's powers, but also like how, you know, did Bree's great grandmother give more information? You know what I mean?
Yes,
Like,
but
what
also I'm
and I
like,
think
is
one of her ancestors also had like died in childbirth. So like how much of that knowledge gets lost in those kinds of
deaths.
moments?
Yeah.
To the point where like again you're doing this but you don't actually know why or how or whatever.
I'm saying magical powers because I'm like, and this is, I guess, also this is like a authorial choice. I'm thinking as well as like part of the reason they weren't kind of part of a community why blood crafting is a stigma for this like story world is that it helps explain why they may not have been in community like someone else from Bree's line couldn't have been in community with someone like Patricia or Mariah earlier. Mariah earlier, so that they could help them like dream walk to the like. Why didn't they have this information? Why didn't her grandma, have this information? Why couldn't they have done the same thing?
And I mean, I think it's the fear of like, knowing that like most root crafters shun bloodcraft, and I think that Bree had, in her ignorance, was able to make those connections because
they had, and even
it's not like they can't assign any blame to her. You know what I mean? Like at least Patricia and Mariah specifically know that Bree has no clue what's going on. And so they kind of recognize like, okay, you kind of were kind of thrust into this situation. And so there's no like whatever the stigma that's attached, they can't really assign it to her because it's something that was done to her versus
it's also, and we're going to get into it a little bit in this chapter, but like, they also have different affinities with craft. I forget where. I think her mom does say it in that last chapter about how she's a wild crafter, right? So hers like is more with plants and she uses it for healing magic and things. But we don't know, but like Mariah is a medium, and so she has access to talk with ancestors or commune with ancestors, and Bree's able to like do that memory walk through her gift with crafting, right? And so if they are so isolated and one of their ancestors died in childbirth, then that means that they don't like the only person that Bree's mom has access to is her mother because her affinity is for plants.
Right. She can't just
like they're not going on
use that power to find.
And they're and she doesn't have anyone.
They're not in
she's
community.
not finding someone who could do that for her.
That's what I was saying. That's why I was like, I think that the bloodcraft bias choice that Tracy put in here, as well as I wonder about their magical abilities within their family, because it seems like Bree's the first person who has the access to do it. And it seems like a clear cut authorial choice to make that part of the storyline.
Yeah, it definitely enhances the like mystery of it because you don't ask like, oh, why couldn't they figure this out? Like, you kind of, there are clear reasons like in world for why it's taken so long to kind of unravel what's going on. So Bree explains to them what happened, like with her mom, and the memory she unlocked, and they agree to help her. Again, I just like appreciate that she has these two people that she can just like share all of this stuff with. And
it's interesting though to think about like her dad being very much like, you need to find a community, you need to have community, go have community. And I wonder what those conversations were, if he had those conversations like with.
But also, was he pushing Bree because he could see how his wife was suffering without having community?
Right.
This is true. I think he probably could. He's a good daddy. He's a good one.
What is it? He's a good man, Savannah. Anyway, Bree. So they do essentially the same thing that they tried to do when the last time Bree met with Patricia and Mariah. So Bree trying to connect her line. This time it's much more peaceful. She's not letting her anger and grief consume her, but she's also not repressing it in the way that like she's kind of been, not no homeostasis. Which are
we have since found out what it meant officially. Thank you, Kishana, for voice. In our hour of need, we shall call upon Kishana henceforth anytime science comes up.
She's very disappointed that she did not get the bat signal.
But yeah, so now she's able to like hold the grief without letting it overpower her and without getting like without trying to like lock it in. And so she's able, so she starts with like connecting the thread from herself to her mom, and then from her mom to her grandma, and then that's where she hits the wall that she's been building up. But then also it's kind of like we kind of start to see how she's been building it up to block, because again, she has this thing that's after Bree, and really what that is her magic and her connection to her ancestors. So it's like she's been blocking it off because of her grief, but I also kind of feel like it also was, you know what I mean? It doesn't feel like it was completely her, I guess.
Like, you think it like consciously, or do you think like do you say her?
I mean, I think
it's her conscious, subconscious, or as in someone else's magic was involved,
like subconscious, not necessarily not someone else, but more like the nature of the magic. And also like when we kind of find out in a second, like about her actual rootcraft, like her rootcraft ability, and how that could have like both with her grief and that magic, it could have just like, again, subconsciously, just like she's protecting herself, but at the same time that she's protecting herself, she's blocking herself from all of this knowledge, all her connection to her family, which is honestly some foreshadowing to some shit that I can't wait to talk about when we get to Bloodmarked. But like, I don't even want to get into it now, but it's like, if you know, you know.
Yeah, I want to say this too, though, like in terms of just like writing choice, I guess is the best way to say that. I love when like manifestations of like everyday things have like a magical component as well. So like that before Bree, after Bree thing is something that like anyone in the world kind of will do, where it's just like you build a wall of like, we don't go there, we don't talk about it, it doesn't exist. Like you, what is like Sherlock Holmes with his mind palace? You go, you put it in a room, you lock the room, like you lock the door in your mind and throw away the key type of thing. That's not a like novel concept in the world or in literature. Like everyone has probably read or heard about some
they've at least heard of personas and social fears,
It's just what that is, like exactly. Or Tina Snow, you know what I mean? We all like have some level of familiarity with like the different ways people compartmentalize and like emotionally protect themselves from trauma, et cetera, grief, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Not grief is a type of trauma, I guess. But I love that when you take something like that and then you make like a magical consequence to it. You know what I mean? Because it's similar to like the whole thing with like a lot of magic is based on intent and intention. And so you can do like, you can accidentally, you know, in these fantasy stories, you can accidentally fall into magic. You can accidentally perform magic if your intent is strong enough. And then a lot of like learning how to like control or perfect your magic is just like learning focus and like meditation and self-control. It's just one of my favorite things because we've been reading up until chapter 43 of like girl therapy and like yes, therapy, because now you see that Bree feels able to better like cope and handle all of these emotions, but also you unlock your power. Like
literally,
I love it when a plan comes together, type of thing. I don't know. It's one of those things where whenever
and it's
I read it makes me smile.
Right after all
like,
of that,
is that easy?
But also it's like it was that easy, and it wasn't, because she was still again like she needed those moments with her parents to really like understand, I guess, and accept. So I just wanted to read like this quote too from when she's taking the wall down. She says, "I unravel the rage until it courses through my veins like fuel in an engine. I let it become part of me, but not all of me. Hot, scorching, pain under my skin, under my tongue, under my nails. I let it spread through me until there is no more before and no more after. I am her and she is me."
Fierce.
But also, yeah, so again, like just there again, like kind of accepting that like this is a new thing, right? Like I'm not the same person I was before my mom died, for a lot of different reasons, to include the magical, and like being able to finally just be like, okay, there is no separation between who I was and who I am, or who I'm becoming or whatever. Like it's just all the same thing. And that's how she's able to kind of like step into her power and become possessed by her grandmother. So
don't we all need a little grandma possession from time to time?
You know, I mean, I don't, but I do appreciate.
I don't. Because there's this one moment in which I was like,
oh yeah,
good Lord, if Geraldine.
Oh my God, I would not want I'm like, Grandma, I don't need you to look around at my space and tell me what I need to be doing. I really don't.
Oh, if Velma got up in here and saw what I was living like with these two dogs in my house, I'd have got the magical spanking that Bree, the magical smackdown that Bree get. And then some, but Geraldine, I do not need. I love you, Grandma, and I miss you every day. But
I already got enough of your teachings in my head to know that you would feel a way about how I'm living. So I don't
listen. That entire thing that we just went on about white people and oppression, that me and Bayana agreed to, that was 50% Geraldine. My mommy had some, and but like that comes from the DNA. Okay, because
no, she did not.
She would have
been a lot more
prolonged,
colorful. Yeah,
it would have been a lot more cursing. We would have to change. I
think it is, but like it would be much more than we usually are. So yes, she's possessed by her grandmother, Mrs. Charles, and so this is how she realizes, how they kind of learn that her root craft is she's a medium like Mariah. And so I like how they kind of like explain what possession feels like. It feels like you're being filled up by someone else, and that like your movements kind of, she likens it to being drunk, which earns her a smack.
She is underage. The girl is 16.
Internally, no, absolutely, but it's like internally she gets a smack or like a poke or something, which is like very weird. I just like how it's kind of like humorous in some ways because it's such a strange and like bizarre experience, and she's just kind of like not. She's trying to figure out how, like, find like some way to move without her. I guess, what is it, like a cup or something? Is like a cup that's kind of overflowing, and like how you're trying to keep it Yeah, and all that, but her
Equilibrium is off, and
his grandma's surfing the waves,
sloshing
or
around,
whatever. And so, so it turns out that Bree is a medium, and then Patricia kind of gives this theory about why it didn't manifest until now. She says that as a medium, your power is wound tightly with death, and as your family's bloodcraft is triggered by death, perhaps the two branches intertwined until they became tied together in unpredictable ways. So that's why I was thinking, like, perhaps it's something because, like, perhaps it couldn't awaken before her mom died because of how, like, kind of similar the bloodcraft and the rootcraft are. And then after that, because she's blocking her grief, it's blocking her magic. And so it took even longer for her to, like, unlock the rootcraft, is my guess. But again, I like that it's, like, not cut and
because
clear,
they, like, the accidental crafting. Yeah, because, like, her accidental crafting as a young age would have been, like, communing with the dead. And she wouldn't be able to do that because of how blocked the line is because of the.
But I also like that it's not.
I think you're right.
I think that I like that it's not cut and dry, because, like, I think that makes it more real in the sense that, like, you can never really know the reasons for some kinds of things, and it's like, we know enough about this magic, and, like, maybe this is what happened. It's also possible something completely different, but this is what we're gonna go with for now. So her grandmother is not here to give Bree all the answers, because, as we know, she does not have the answers.
She's not Sway.
Like Sway in the morning. She's Sway just.
She is Sway.
But instead she's there as a signpost for an older ancestor. So it's kind of similar to, like, when Bree was on the memory walk with Patricia's folks, and how it was like an older ancestor would kind of grab her and take her to another memory, and then it would kind of do like, so she's kind of just there. Yes, way more. But also it's like, it's a slightly different because it's not the memory, like, because like her grandma is there. Is just like, I'm just waiting, and, like, and also the idea that, like, it will take a while to reach because the idea is that they're trying to reach, like, the first mother so that they can get, again, so Bree can have all the answers, but it's going to take a while to reach her. She then has to decide that she wants to give these answers, and then even after if she decides yes, it's going to take a minute for her to get there, because, you know, which makes sense to me. It's like a lot of channels traveling through time in some ways. They're like,
but it's also the fact of, like, I think, like, just on some general, like, Black folk stuff, or just people stuff, I guess. Sometimes you're a little bit nicer to the strangers than you are to your kinfolk, you know? Like, you'd be like, I haven't had a chance to talk about you, little girl, and what you need to get up to, you know? Like, I'm gonna take my opportunity to play with you a little bit, poke, prod. But I also think that I think that given how much Patricia and Mariah have used their powers, how it was, like, probably easier for them to evoke, like, those, because I'm not thinking that the first ancestor is that far off of some of the earlier ancestors that we got from Patricia's line. Like, it's not that, like, it's the gap in time is not as deep as, like, it is for Bree to that ancestor. So I think that it might be as well, like, how, because Bree has been blocked off from the line, and her family has been blocked off from that line so long. It's also, like, at that, like, you have to bridge that gap. It takes time to bridge that gap for that light to kind of reach out where it's not been seen before.
Yeah, definitely.
So what I was thinking about, and then we can move on, and what I want to know from, like, Tracy and stuff, is that the first thing her grandmother says is, like, oh, it's about time. And I wonder, like, how they speak to each other. Obviously, like, Bree's mom hasn't been gone long. It's been a couple of months now, probably, like, 2 to 3 months.
Maybe 6.
Maybe 6?
That's what her dad said, right?
Maybe, like, 6, right? But I'm wondering, how do they talk to each other once they've all passed on, right? Because obviously, like, with that first memory rock, Patricia's channeling them and they're like kind of reaching out to each other. But I wonder like how often like two ancestors just meet and commune with each other without any interference from like the living world, because they also like Root, the way that it's explained, like lives with like when you become an ancestor, once you pass on, you have endless access to Root. It lives in kind of that realm. And so in like the afterlife, and then they can let you borrow it or not. But I want a story or something in which Bree's mom has a conversation with her mother, because like the it's about time thing, like that's actually not Bree's fault,
right? Like grandma would be like smacking her upside the head. What did you leave this baby with nothing for? Come on.
Like, what you mean?
You didn't tell her somehow she wasn't going to That's So Raven herself onto that campus.
Yeah.
I don't understand.
But also, like, I guess it makes sense. Like, now that I'm, like, really processing, again, as we're talking about this, like, she lost her mom right before she went to that school.
Mm-hmm.
So she was, you know.
Lost.
But still, I could definitely see her mama being like, now, Faye.
No, I know you were traumatized after my death, and I know that you processed that trauma on that campus.
But you know, I'd have taught you better.
I don't know why you thought that trauma was somehow going to make it to your daughter, and she would realize not to go. I don't know how we got that far, but I know how you got where you got. I just don't know where you thought you were going with your daughter. I don't connect that for me.
Yeah. So Mariah they give Bree some food, which like helps to settle her grandma in her so that she can actually like, you know, move. And then Mariah takes her back to her dorm, gives her some like advice on being a medium. So for one, like you've let this one spirit in, but you have to be really careful not to just let everybody in at the same time. It's easy to get overwhelmed.
Imagine? That is some Whoopi Goldberg ghost situation right there.
Right, exactly.
What I was just imagining was, you know how Black folk don't like to leave your house. They be saying
I was thinking about how like you don't like to leave the door unlocked. So like if you leave that door unlocked, you be like, nothing might happen. You might be okay.
Anybody could come in.
Anybody could come in.
And then on top of the fact that like also Mariah mentioned at the very beginning of this chapter, she was like, you know, do we need to do this in the cemetery? And Bree was like, yeah. And she's like, okay, I just want to check because sometimes these other spirits be trying to follow me home and I'm not trying to have to clean house. That wasn't my plan for today. So I just want to make sure. So there's that too. Like you could also bring back spirits that aren't yours. So
but also we talked about impromptu wash day. But think about it, impromptu like spiritual cleansing of your house. Like
come on. No,
of your whole house.
Of your whole house, not your brain. I said they will follow me home.
Yeah, Mariah. I like that Mariah talks about not possession, not being like. There's a lot of different like flavors of medium, and possession not really being her bag, too, because it's like, she's giving her as much as she knows, and like she has an uncle, and is her uncle? Is she talking about Valak? No,
Valak is
he's not getting possessed,
and I don't think they're related. Yeah, they're not related. I don't think, but
she calls him.
I can't remember, but it's definitely not him because he's
It's not him though, because he is a Cambion. He's not. But so I also love this idea of like, be very careful as well, because I'm giving you like secondhand. Not like I know what I have to do with like just like how they affect me, but like someone could just like
taking you for a ride, child.
Start driving the keys. Yeah. So,
you're not, but like you gotta be careful.
Stay constant vigilance. Do not get lax right now. This is not the time.
Constant vigilance.
So yeah, and that's how we end that chapter.
I was so confused in this chapter too about how like they meet the grandma and then they're just dropping her off, and I'm like,
I mean, what else do they have to do?
They don't want to quiz the girl. They saw how ornery she was. They want to interview her. That lady ain't trying to talk to them. She's over here poking her own granddaughter.
Again, she doesn't have those answers. She's just there. She's like, I'm just here waiting on the person who's gonna give you the answers, and I just have to be here as the line. I think also it probably makes sense that it's her grandma because the line. I mean, she had the wall that was between them, but it's still like the closest person she had, like an actual like, closest connection to. That's not her mom. Like it's kind of where the information kind of.
Can you imagine not meeting your grandma until you're in college, and the first thing this lady does is possess your body?
I mean, no, I cannot. But also, I just like that's the thing where I'm like, y'all can just like, Mariah, you can just hang out and like have like watch some Real Housewives in the dorm room with me, like just. I know we're just waiting. I know Grandma said it's gonna take a minute. Like, can I get your phone number? Can I get a call? Like, you just gonna drop me back off at the dorms?
But she was able to get Mariah and Patricia there because she already has their numbers. Like, that's what she has. Their numbers.
That's true. I'm just saying, I would just want someone to like hang out with me,
sit with you.
I mean, her grandma is literally sitting inside of her body.
Not
like she's in a rocking chair, just cracking some sunflower seeds in her rocking chair, chilling. Like she's right there.
Mm-mm.
All right. So with Grandma, what is her name again?
Miss Charles.
When Grandma Charles still rolling inside Bree's head, the first thing she thinks about the next morning when she wakes up is the guy she recently thought about seeing naked. And I understand this is the first time she's ever had someone in her body before, but I just need her to be a little bit more thoughtful about what thoughts are going through her head when she's hosting someone else in there, because you don't know what they can tap into, is what I'm saying.
She already got smacked for taking the Lord's name in vain, so
right.
And now you have an unholy thought
about this white boy, girl. A blonde-haired, blue-eyed white boy. Okay, all right, here we go.
There's okay, just write this down. I'll find it for you, Bayana, because I stumbled across it on TikTok because I do not watch this show. It's like The Neighborhood or whatever, or The Neighbors. I don't know. With Cedric the Entertainer, and they got the white neighbors. There's a scene where the son is trying to tell his mama that he is dating a white lady, and he uses every euphemism in the book, and it is hilarious. And I need that to be in our memes. I will find it for you.
That's so funny.
Bree trying to explain to Grandma Charles her thoughts about Nick.
And that is yes. And so that's her first thought. And so she fortunately does not like go through her text history with him, because that would be even worse to be doing with your grandma right there. But she does decide that, she wants to make up with him for, like, if she were seeing it from his perspective, it looks like she was using him. And so to make sure that he doesn't feel like his efforts were futile and that she was just using him, she said she thinks she's going to make up to him by showing up at the ball.
I want to give her credit for one thing. She also said, like, she was using him. That wasn't her intention.
Yeah.
But I also think that, like, he knew that from jump.
Right.
Like, it's not like it's a complete, like, he thought she was there for him. Like, he definitely knew.
First off, she started off her whole interaction with this boy, not answering his calls, and then whenever she finally does want to talk to him, it's because she's trying to use him. Like, they both knew what it was from jump. Like,
she showed up. I think also
she showed up in his class that she was not in. She's writing words.
Talking about
that
she showed up to the lodge talking about, I'm here, come pick me up. Like,
he knew what.
So I think he definitely knew and was fine with that. I think also
it no longer fits right with her that she was using him.
Yeah,
but I just wanted to.
I think it's because the fact that she left him there, it was like, oh, I really like left him. Like, I was like, oh, thanks, bye.
And abused.
I didn't even say thank you. I was just like, got what I needed, bye.
Gotta go.
Gotta get out of here. So I think that's, I think,
and I think she also, I like that this chapter she makes it clear she's like saying goodbye. This is not,
she's saying goodbye.
Like,
she's
not like, oh, I'm going back to apologize to Nick and then I'll be his squire. She's like, I'm gonna go apologize to him and be like, good luck with Camlan and and dip.
Call at me if you survive.
And I respect that she decides she's going to say goodbye in the most, like, again, teenage dramatics.
Yeah.
Of like in the most formal, like well,
if she gonna say goodbye, at least
situation possible. You know what I mean? Like, she's like, oh, if I'm gonna leave him with a lingering impression, right? And so
the last time he saw her, she was crying.
She was busted
a mess with a busted clavicle. She's like, nah, we go end with me with the curls popping.
Yeah.
Faith beat. Give him something to remember me by.
Yeah, so her curls popping because this means a wash day, but this doesn't sound, it's like the opposite of her traumatic wash day. She's very proud and happy about what her curls are looking like when she comes out the shower. She and Alice never did go shopping for the clothes. So what happens is she calls in her favor with Charlotte. And I forget what hall they're in. I feel like it's mentioned before, and I don't
Old
really
East or something like that.
I don't care though, because in my mind I was thinking about the Cell Block Tango and the girls from Cell Block with and I was like, that's what I'm giving them in their hall, the Cell Block. Not called a dorm or Cell Block, but just like how the girls are together and united. Like, I enjoy that, so it was giving me a Cell Block Tango moment. Alex,
I'm also laughing at the sense of like, we are reading a fantasy book. Okay, she has her grandmother sitting in her head, but to me, they really lost the plot when a tall ass Bree was just trying on other girls' clothes and it all fit.
Well, no, I think some of it
Not all of it.
They were talking about how
I think it didn't fit, and Charlotte had to go and
she was going to get some more because they were getting down to the dredges and they didn't have anything that was fitting.
Well, not nothing. No, they didn't have anything that was like.
I don't think that it's just I don't think that it was just that they didn't look right. I think some of them don't look right.
I thought it was specifically that it wasn't fitting.
Yeah,
I think some of them were not fitting, but like, just the idea. I don't know. I would just be like,
I mean, she's tall. She's 5'8". She's not like 6 feet.
Right. Though to be five.
Oh, I'm like 5'8".
I'm like 5'8". I'm 5'8.5",
and I'm
like I'm barely 5'9". If I am 5, I'm 5'8.5" for real. And I do have tall girl struggles, but I can't.
Yeah, it's not like you don't.
Rack.
Like I'm 5'8".
But it's just about. I think it's more about body shape than it is about height for like some like for these dress formal wear, especially. Yeah. I think it's more like the dress.
No, I think it's body shape
component of it, but I think body shape is more likely to be the thing where it wouldn't fit right. Is if it like know. Anyway,
yeah, I mean, because the ones that don't fit are like the boobs or the butt, the hips. They're not working, but.
And if it's like a long dress, obviously height could come in to
it
like
might
play with that.
Yeah.
And I'm learning that this is like a me thing. When you say tall, I didn't realize she was 5'8". When I hear tall, I hear 5'11".
I know.
6 feet.
But I think 5'8" is like that
is very WNBA of you.
That's like the beginning of tall.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. She's never been described as like above
no,
you know what I mean?
No,
like
she's not above 5'9".
She's been described as, but I also a lot of times whenever someone says that I'm tall, I'm like, am I?
Right. That's what I'm saying. Like, she's not described as like freakishly is not the right word, but you know what I mean? Like noticeably tall. I don't know. Sometimes I read books and they're like, they're freakishly tall, and I'm like, that's not rude. Really the word.
Yeah, like
that's rude.
You can she's not like a model-esque or something. Like she's giving like a runway model.
Every time I look at my 5'11" ass,
those runway girls are tall. Right. Those runway girls.
Okay, so if she was, I feel like the litmus. If Bree was like above 6 feet or whatever, maybe about 5'10". Evan's ass would have been said something about that shit. So like that's how we know she's not like Evan's ass would have been like, whoa, you know what I mean? Like,
talk
I
about
in high school, I
drink of water.
had a friend.
Like, shut up.
When I was in high school, I had a friend who was maybe like 5'10", and like every time boys saw her, they'd be like, oh my god, I'm like, she's just let her be tall. Like,
she's
why
not even that's 5'10".
Worried about it.
Like, oh my gosh, just a complete sidebar.
It's such a ridiculous
because boys want to say that they're like 6 foot tall when they're actually like 5'7". And then whenever they meet someone who presents as female and is taller than the height that they say that they are, then all of a sudden, oh no, you can't be that tall. No, I am. Like, you're lying because this is what 5'10" looks like and you're not here. So get it together. Pull it together.
Yeah. I don't know. I have issues with height. It's my mom's fault.
I think it's hard to grow up in a body that people decide is supposed to look a certain way because of societal standards and practices, and to not fit that standard. And then I think that we all go through that. I think that how long it lingers on you depends on how far you deprogram yourself over time.
I should have been 6'2". My damn mama. Her 5'3" ass.
I mean, you decided you was gonna drink coffee too. I don't know how long have you been drinking coffee.
Wait, is coffee?
Coffee is an inhibitor.
It is.
That's also my mama's fault. Why was she letting me drink coffee?
She did it on purpose. She was like, "You're getting too tall. You gotta come down here with me. You can't get up too high."
I've been drinking coffee since high school.
Yep, that does
Maybe
it.
Junior high.
That does it.
God damn. I'm mad at both my parents now.
All right. So, Bree's getting dolled up, looking like a runway model. And as she finally finds a dress that actually seems like it's gonna work, she gets it all zipped up, and they're like, not only are she and Alice like taken aback, like, yes, it's working. They both tear up because when they look in the mirror, Bree resembles her mother, and it's a cute little moment between besties. And I'm glad that Bree has Alice, someone who knew her when her mom was around, to realize how momentous this is and how deeply affecting this is, to look in the mirror and see her mother in this moment of like chaos, right? Of like getting dressed and trying to get somewhere.
And I think it also, like, I appreciated that moment of just like a reminder that, I mean, again, Alice was tripping at the beginning of this book, but she did know.
Are you sure you've forgiven Alice?
I have forgiven her. Like, I feel like after the first couple chapters, she works it out. But I do like this reminder here that, like, she also knew Bree's mom grew up with, you know what I mean? Like, they've been friends for a really long time. So that, like, seeing Bree like this, making her emotional, not only because Bree finally looks like she's, you know, doing better, but also, you know, that direct like connection to her mother and stuff.
Charlotte is adamant about dropping Bree off because Charlotte lives this wearing heels life and knows what it's going to take for her to be on top. And so she's like, I am going to make sure that you are dropped off like as close to the building as possible, because nobody wants to walk up no steps, no in the crevices and stuff, navigate all that, trying to keep a glam look together, trying not to get too hot in this southern heat with the makeup and the hair and all that. You need to keep it together as long as possible. And Bree was like, oh, I got it. And Charlotte was like, no, I really do think that this needs to happen.
I love that Bree doesn't think I might be blowing up Evan's spot, but you know, who cares about him?
This is okay. She doesn't think about it
anyway, or
she doesn't think about it till later. She thinks about it. She's like, she thinks about it whenever she sees him, I think, because she's like, oh, I wonder what he told Charlotte, because
she thinks about it early when Charlotte brings her the dresses. And then just was like, oh, I guess I'm getting dropped off.
Yeah. But you know, that's his problem. That's not her problem.
It is. But she was like, I wonder he told her that he was having video games with the boys or something. Cause like, why? Oh yeah, that's what it was. Yeah.
Yeah, that was early.
That was earlier whenever she jumped. And I was like, what? Like, anyways. So I just remember her thinking about it again whenever she sees him. Anyways. So she walks up into the building. As she's about to, you know, get up there, she sees a doorman. He's black, and he's like, all right, sis. And I love that for Black folk. Like, we may not know you, but especially if we know you're going into a situation that like there are not very many of us there, and you just like there's a little bit of support of like there's one of us is showing up in there. We're like, and we're showing up in style. Like we stunting. They can't even get close to it. Like we got it. I see you doing it. Yes. Like, and I enjoy that. It's so funny because I'm from Tennessee and I'm like reserved and like introverted. And so being around like Northerners, New Yorkers specifically, and how like their method of bigging people up is so just like, it's fun. And like is just outward and stuff, and it's just always been great. And so I think that seeing that, how like the universality of it, like even like in a, like, yes, this is in the South, but it's so funny that like it doesn't matter where you are, if there's Black folk and they're not haters, they're going to give you that extra nod, that extra smile or whatever. And like occasionally that happens with like white folks too. Like I remember I like had on this cute interview outfit once when I was coming from a job that I ended up getting. And I was walking like in Grand Central Station, not Grand Central, in Penn Station, and this white woman with this like very New York brass like kind of voice was like, "Oh my gosh, I love your outfit." And I was like, "Thank you." And I was like, "Am I New Yorker? Did a New Yorker compliment my outfit? Am I officially doing it?" Like it was a real moment. But
am I here now?
Right? Is it? Have I arrived? Am I? It did feel very validating, and I feel like there's a level of validation of like a New Yorker from the fashion capital of like the world, some say, and like of the US or whatever, was like complimenting me. And then there's another one when Black folks are like bigging you up, like it's like a yes, like I see you. And it's I think about seeing you, a good amount of time is about seeing you when other people are acting like they don't see you, and it like helps you whenever you're feeling like invisible, like Bree is about to. But it's also validating even if it's not, if it's everybody's in here is joyful and like lauding you. It's nice to have people like kind of bring you out of yourself sometimes with that.
I think there's also like, I mean, it hits even more, like this is a Black man and that's great. It hits even more when it's a Black woman.
Yes.
Because 100%. There's also something about like knowing what the wash day routine is to get the curls where they are, like knowing what the process is, and like physically and like aesthetically, right, to get looking that way, but then also to have the confidence to walk into what is about to be a super white room. So you not only did you do all of this work to look great externally, but internally you did all this work to show up to something that no matter how great you look, you about to experience some bullshit on some level. Like this night will not be bullshit free for Bree.
And as far as he knows, this could be the only compliment she gets all night long because he knows he's inside that room.
Right.
That too. And so I think there's also that too. It's just like, it's also like, yes, I see you, but not only do I see you, like the white woman complimenting your outfit, Porshèa, which is just like, that's a great outfit, which is like, sometimes, yes, objectively, I look good. Okay.
The outfit looks good because I'm wearing it.
Yeah. But also sometimes
I make this look good because I'm in that, like it's Beyonce.
Because I'm in that hoe.
Exactly. But then also it's like, you look good and I understand what you needed to do to get there.
Yeah. So Bree enters the room and she sees she doesn't say this, but basically it sounds like the order of the rose is in the house and they're looking like Real Housewives, sipping wine at the table. She sees these men at the bar sipping drinks, all white. This comes up later, but I'm going to talk about it now. The only people that she sees that look like her are the wait staff. She doesn't see anyone in that room who is reclining and like being able to enjoy it that looks like her. It's just her. Everyone else who looks like her is working this function. And so that's something that hits her later. But it's like clear from how she has a level of like discomfort, not only in that like she knows that she like ran away from the order and so she's uncomfortable, like, oh crap, it's the first time I'm showing my face after I ran out, but also, like, no one is acknowledging her. Like, she's walking into this room and no one is coming up to like hand her anything or direct her to any, like, she's walking in here and no one's saying anything to her. And so even the people, she was just, you know, like, again, the doorman just said, I see you, like, go, okay, sis. And she walks in and no one's acknowledging her when she's able to like look around this room and see how other people are having a great time. And yeah. So the first person who actually does acknowledge her is Felicity, who pops up from the table, and like strolls over to Bree, and then unfortunately with the entourage of like Tor, and as Felicity is talking to her, she does not even care too much about what Felicity is saying, because what is more important is that she feels Sel's gaze on her body,
bro.
And
it's hilarious because she's like, I know he knows I know that he's watching me.
And so for me, that cued the TLC song, like, I've been watching you, watching me, and I know you want it.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, why is Bree this way?
And I got the Destiny's Child, the "No, you see me watching you, but I see you watching me." That one too. It's too much. It's too much. But it's very like, yeah, it's insane. It's a lot, especially once she has her interaction with Nick, and then she's still like, you know, I love
she's
like
still
this boy. I have this connection with this boy. Me and Nick are like almost meant to be, and here comes, and Sel is still staring at me, child. Oh no, when he looks away, she suddenly is like, oh shit.
She feels an automatic disconnection when his gaze is gone off of her. And she's like, I was like, ah, okay,
sensational.
So. Because I've had that feeling for like, there was one person that for a while we were into each other, and I swear whenever we were in a room, I could tell when he entered the room, and it could be it could be a gym, and I would know when he entered the room, like I would know it. And it's like having that feeling of like, I feel him here, and then I feel him looking at me, and then being like, but like being what you do, knowing that person is looking at you. And I feel like that's what Bree was on. Like, she was like, oh, I know he's seeing me and I'm cute. And then after she's being cute, after she feels Sel's gaze on her, and she's talking to Felicity and stuff, Nick does come up to her, and then he starts talking to her. So he takes over from Felicity, because Felicity, and secondly, Felicity is drunk. The girl's barely getting her words together. She's kind of complimentary to Bree, but she's complimentary while also being sloshed. So that's the thing. So when Nick pops up, it's a whole, you know, the conversation actually goes somewhere, and Bree is like feeling kind of like, you know, not only like she's like remorse or whatever, and she's like kind of like, you know, trying to make that clear to him without saying too much in front of all these other people. But then she's also in her brain, she's like very much like, oh, I'm gonna say goodbye, like, end of the night, this is my final hurrah with him, and this is, you know, like, for at least for the order component of being with him. And so I'm trying to like do my best to make sure that I lead this off with a, like, you know, we're gonna be able to say goodbye at the end of the night. And so her conversation with Nick is like a flirty conversation about like, ooh, you're giving me like newly recruited secret agent. And then they go back and forth about it.
Cute.
It is. And then the hater, Tor, is like,
why is she even there?
That was gross. Like, who asked you to judge our interaction? And I know her feeling is, oh, this is who we chose? Some girl who this is what they talk about? Secret, like, ew, this is so basic. And this is who we chose.
Not to side with Tor, because gross, but also that was gross.
It was boring.
If Star had said it, Star had said it, y'all would have been like, yep.
It was
no. So cute, it's gross.
I didn't get no.
It was the banter for me.
Tor was not saying it as like, oh, it's
no,
so
Tor
cute.
definitely wasn't.
Tor was not saying, oh, it's so cute, it's gross. Tor was saying, this is gross. Like, this is gross.
Tor was saying, ew, you're dating
you with her is gross.
A Negro? A Negro?
Yeah. You and her are gross.
No. no, Tor was being a hater for sure. I'm just saying, me as a person who thinks that shit is gross, it was kind of gross.
I didn't find
in a cute way.
I didn't find it. I don't know. They find things cringe. I don't often find romantic things cringe unless it's just like pet names come out and then I'm like, ew, stop it, don't do it. But they were just being like, you know,
the banter was bantering.
This banter again. This is why I lean more towards the Cell part of Cellbrick, because her banter with Cell is like more flirty, slightly seductive. Her banter with Nick is kind of like, it doesn't feel the same. It doesn't feel
it's a lot
lighter. Like friends.
Yes,
they're
well, not friends. Cool. It's definitely it's a flirtation based on friendship and I mean,
yes, because Cell wouldn't know what to do with that. Cell wouldn't know what to do with you look like a secret agent. Like he'd be like.
He'd be like, he'd be like, first of all, I'm a king's mage. That is always gonna trump. Like, why would you even compare me to something as basic as what? Are you? Is that an insult?
Yeah, like they have different like points of connection, I guess is probably the best way to say that.
And that's why she is
trying to devour.
And that's why she's trying to devour him. That's the shade. So while she's, again, over here bantering with Nick, and then they get called to go to their table, so they're going to sit down, she starts looking around the table, and she's like, Cell's not here. And again, because she felt his gaze left her body. And then she notices when Cell's not at the table to sit with her, Nick and them. Even in a minute while she's over here in conversation with Nicholas, who's supposed to be her primary love interest, apparently, she's concerned about where Cell is. And not only is she concerned about where Cell is, she's thoughtful enough to know she can't talk about her concern about where Cell is. So she tells Nick that whenever he notices her looking around, that she was looking around for Vaughn. Like, girl.
Great save.
I mean, it's a great save because it's a genuine concern, like or a valid concern. I don't know if she was genuinely concerned about it, but it's a valid one.
It is a valid, and she knows it'll stir Nick up. Like, he doesn't have to, like, you know what? Like, she knows she doesn't want to stir Nick up with her thinking about Cell, but she doesn't mind stirring him up about Vaughn, because that doesn't go into territory that she can't deal with. She can deal with him talking about Vaughn. She can't deal with him talking about Cell. And also, like, before we get into that part of the Vaughn thing, I want to say also that this is it's like, Cell can't sit down. He can't catch a break. Like, he really is like on duty, even with more Merlins on duty on campus. He's still on duty.
Remember when I said Luna was perfect?
Spoke too soon.
I'm not stand by that shit, but
she's testing her perfection boundaries.
Okay, sorry.
I think she has to. I think she's trying to weigh in on Cellbrick, and I enjoy hearing her weighing in on Cellbrick.
She's also Team Cell. She's Luna is very anime coded. Very, very anime coded. So the thing I wanted to just like mention about Vaughn is I think that who is it? Fitz is like, oh, come on, Nick, like,
yeah, he's like, he's a good fighter.
Yeah.
Nobody asked you.
But it's like,
but whenever Bree sat down there, Fitz had the nerve to have a look on his face. Like,
he's also a salty dude.
Like, but okay, so we're going to the Vaughn of it all. When Bree mentions Vaughn, Nick is like, he can't sit with us, basically. And, he's like, I have him sitting on the other side of the room. And Fitz is like, yeah, I don't know why you're doing this, man. And I'm like, when was Fitz and Vaughn like that? Like, I missed it.
Maybe Vaughn is his sponsor, I think. Fitz is his sponsor, I think.
I think Fitz is his sponsor, because he's like,
Fitz is his sponsor.
Nick says, like, he fights dirty, and then Fitz says, you think the Shadowborns fight clean? And
so you've been sitting at home at Von's house trying to come up with ways to make him sound like a good person after everything went down.
And my thing is like, sure, when it's time to fight the Shadowborn, sure, he can see ether. He just can't be.
That don't mean he gotta be the squire though. Like
come on.
Right.
Why
would I
want
it's
that?
Interesting that Fitz is like, he's a good fighter, but it's like, you saw him take
he fought with another person who could be a squire someday. Like, he's not a team. Like,
no, it's not even that. But you saw him like take a sucker punch to someone who could be a squire someday, like you're saying. But like, what makes you think that like in fighting, if you didn't piss him off, he wouldn't take a sucker punch ball, and then be like, oh, the Shadowborn. You know what I mean? It's like, it's not even that like
a good fighter makes good choices.
But like, I can't trust him.
A good fighter makes good choices, want to fight and he doesn't make good choices while he's in fighting mode, and that's the worst.
Exactly. And like, as much as y'all give Fel hell about his temper tantrums and him being volatile, at least he got some demon in him.
Right. But also he takes it out on trees, which is not. Again, we need those trees, so you're playing trees. But it's not a person.
Check it.
And finally, to wrap this chapter up, Bree's, they finish their meal. They get to a portion of the night where the dance floor opens up, and Bree and Nick asks Bree to go dance with him, and she takes him up on the offer. They're in the middle of the dance floor. Tor is probably gagging and dying and dreadfully upset, and as they're on the dance floor, another hater, excuse me,
like, y'all couldn't give us 5 minutes.
They can have any time. He is the scion of author, dance a lot, dancing with a black girl, scion of Arthur, and how dare he do this? How dare he pronounce his affinity in this ballroom in front of the whole order whenever they already allowed him to bring her into the order for his little shenanigans and his wild oat sowing? Like, just keep it so close, Nick. Like, this is too much. This is a faux pas, social faux pas, sir.
It's so annoying.
It is.
Don't nobody want to dance with Isaac. Like, go away.
And so didn't nobody send for you, but nobody sent for you, but someone probably sent him over there, given Lord Davis. Yeah. And so Isaac breaks.
Lord Davis said, "These Order of the Rose chicks will not shut up. Can you just make them stop looking at each other and dancing and googly eyes?"
He's like, Nicholas is more besotted than I thought I would allow him to be, and so I need that to be stopped. Put a pin in that bud, nip that in the bud as immediately as possible. Actually, thanks. Yeah. And I need him to be like ready for what's about to happen. So, the hater in question, because Bree just like remarks upon like how they look like the carved and like basically the description sounds like a vampire, and we found out that really it's Isaac, and his last name is Sorensen, so it's really given Scandinavian like blood vampire, and he is Dr. Davis's Kingsmage, the one that got written on top of where Stell's mother used to be on the Great Line Wall, and that's where we end with the introduction of Isaac.
Who was the MVP? I said Mrs. Charles. I said Mrs. Charles just because she wasn't a grandma in life, but she was made for that,
She gave like strict grandma.
She came in full on. She said, "This is my time."
She said, "I'm not going to be the baked cookies grandma. I'm going to be the hit you with the perks grandma."
Literally,
the quiet in church grandma that don't even the cut eyes.
Don't even think about it.
Don't even think about it. Don't play with me.
Yeah, but I like that. I also just appreciate that Bree like finally gets to connect with one of her ancestors, and I think also it being her grandmother first makes a lot of sense, especially after like it kind of feels like she, like obviously Bree's whole line over is like this kind of cloud or whatever over the whole thing, but her grandma is like, I think more directly, because the way that she was raised by her mom is directly connected to her grandmother's like death, and even like her own grief about her mom, you know what I mean? Like it's so like even when she's doing the lines, like she can pretty easily connect from her mom to her grandma, and that's kind of where it stops. And so, yeah, I just appreciate getting to see her, and I like that she's just happens to be sitting around while Bree is like flirting with this boy. I think it's hilarious. I think she's asleep right now. She was like, I don't need to be involved in all this.
So I'm gonna go inactive. But I would love to see her and Bree have a grandma granddaughter moment where they talk about her mom, like Bree's mom, and they're like, this lady, and she's like, look, you know, I raised her. She don't make all the great choices now off that way. And Bree would be like, you know what? I'm glad you could like they just have this lady.
Yeah.
She's tripping.
Yep.
She was tripping. I know. I wanted to make Bree's mom MVP, but I couldn't because she was tripping, and anxiety brain only gets you. You know, it's an explanation, but it's not. It's not a justifiable excuse. So I just did root crafters as a whole, just because I think that like that one I love the way that magic is explained in this book. And then I really love the way that root crafters and the root craft takes that use of magic or root and makes it like it was Delia. It was Day of the Dead. I can't right now. Okay. It was Day of the Dead not too long ago. And I live in a historically like Mexican neighborhood, and they had a festival and there were ofrendas everywhere. And I just love that connection to like ancestors and like offering to them and then getting something back. And that sense of gone but not forgotten, or like they're just always here with you. And so when you do see like I just like the part that really stuck with me was when Bree's mom talks about like people who can call it magic, or you know, other crafters, people who have access to this energy. It's like something about the root crafters that really just like I feel like they are the best of the bunch. So that's who I gave it to.
I gave it to the Black community, from the doorman to Patricia, to Dr. Hartford and Mariah, to Grandma Charles and Faye, and to the waitstaff inside of the place. Like if anyone's gonna do it, it's gonna be Black folk. And I enjoyed how much like support Bree had in those moments. Like she was truly alone, like sitting there, going in there. And that guy didn't have to do that, and he could have been weird about it. It could have been a like
it could have been creepy,
right? And he was just letting her know, like, I see you, you know, like, and I just feel like that is like a heartwarming moment. I think probably this chapter is probably the chapter that solidified my issue, like my irk or ire, at the fact that we didn't get more of the Black community throughout the story, and I understand why. Like I understand why. But I think this is what when I saw it in action, I was like, why haven't we had more of this? Like like my brain was just like, I would love to have had more of this. So I just have to put it up for when we do get it, because when it's done well, and I really enjoy it.
Word. Benched. I said the order as a whole. I can't stand them, and they're still at the root of all of the problems that everyone is having. So
for sure, I agree with that. I kind of feel like I feel like when we were doing Amari, it was like if all else fails, we're gonna just a Van Helsing is benched. You know what I mean? If nothing else, a Van Helsing.
One of the Van Helsings.
Like one of the Van Helsings got to sit down. I feel like that here. It's like, if I can't point to one particular person, but I know the order should fit. And yeah, they're at the root of everything that's wrong. And like, they are like literally the inverse of like the root crafting community and root crafters, of just like taking without acknowledgement, without
they're
any
willing
sense
to
of like,
they're willing to sacrifice the lives of the living in order to hold them as vessels for the dead. Whereas craft is like very much like, we're just borrowing. We understand that if we do anything else, it would just be leeching off of the dead, and they don't want to have that relationship. Like the order is like, I don't care. Like it's capitalism. Like I will use up all the natural resources that we have. I do not care, as long as within my lifetime it doesn't affect me too harshly. I'm good.
Yep.
Exactly. It's like consumption with no end and with no thoughtfulness, and just taking. And I think that like is personified in these chapters when you see, especially in the chapter in which Bree's mom is kind of explaining her past and her history, of just like all that everyone in Bree's line have sacrificed and done to protect, or what they thought was to protect each other, or protect the next generation. And in ways, a large part of that being protected from the order, and how they just kind of have the exact opposite ideology, I guess is the right word. They're just two sides, not two sides of the same coin. They're completely on opposite. I don't know, but we don't like they can fit.
This might be a cut thing, but I'm sorry, just like what you said put me on like when we talk about like reading the same book but not actually getting the same story. I feel like the same thing is like for like Kendrick Lamar's All My Life I Had to Fight, and like, or like Color Purple, when that actually is from. When Black folk hear that and think about it ancestrally, what all my life I had, like, we had no other choice, we had to fight, like we had to survive kind of thing, versus the oppressive, I had to fight because I wanted resources. I fought,
right,
or whatever. Like, it's like you didn't have to fight.
It's like I made up reasons
to fight. Yep. You did not have to fight. This was not something that was put on you to do. You decided because you wanted XYZ that it was within your nature that you were going to fight and get it. You were going to you were going to oppress until you got what you wanted. Versus whenever people who've been oppressed hear that, you know, it's like we had no other choice. There really was nothing else. It was the bare minimum I had to do to survive. And so when we talk about how Bree's family had to fight, I'm like, yo, like, and then the order, like the mismatch there, like they're like, well, we fight too. We fight the shadow one. And then like thinking about how Dr. Hartford said, like, they would not have to fight them if they simply would not put the energy out there, but they do. And it just, so that just hit me right there, like a Kendrick, like we hear that song means two different things to the oppressed and the oppressor. Like it means two different things. And so actual bench for me was specifically the haters. I didn't put Isaac in this because I'm like, we didn't get his full hateration. We just got his like you know,
he just showed up.
He just showed up, you know, it's just an introduction of his character. We don't actually like see the hateration in action yet.
In the dancery.
Right. Literally in the dancery.
Literally in the dancery.
The dancer Bree. But we saw I'm so millennial. I'm sure, like, if there's any Gen Zers, they're like, oh, they're so cringe. Anyways, so
oh well,
I like it. It's fun. So I named the haters as I saw them, and that was Fitz, that was Tor, and that was Vaughn. Haters, and I'm glad that Vaughn was exiled to the non-cool kid table. And if Fitz keeps it up, I hope he goes there too. Like, bye. And Tor can go if she. Well, like, I prefer she be gone. But
Fitz is definitely going. Fitz is not long. Fitz is not long.
He's not long for this world.
I mean, and You know, sometimes.
I'm just saying. You're saying you hope. I'm like, he's got a good 24 hours left.
You know, and I hope he.
Maybe less.
I hope he spent his time wisely kissing Von's butt. You know, I hope he thinks that was worth it for him. That, you know, because I personally wouldn't want to spend time kissing anyone's butt, but that's just me, possibly. I don't know. But yeah, the haters, F them, they can all get benched. And again, benched in this, it means like they can go to a whole other table and just not.
Just sit.
They can just not sit here.
You can't sit with us. Thank you for listening. Join us next week when we discuss chapters 45 through 47.
Wizard Team is part of the Black Nerds Create Collective. If you want to keep up with our content, you can check out our website at blacknerdscreate.com. Follow us on Instagram and Tumblr at Wizard Team Pod and at Black Nerds Create.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.